Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Hey guys, and welcome to Criminality, the podcast where we know loving reality TV is not just not a crime. It's a way of escape. It's a wonderful life. It's literally a wonderful life. Rebekah, have a wonderful life with me. Let's talk about reality TV.
Can we please just lose ourselves in a story in the moment, if you will? A little M&M for you.
I love it. Yeah.
Dare I say reality TV could be a unifying conversation. Yeah.
It is.
Great.
Yeah.
So here for
totally.
it.
We can all hate the same people. And that's really what brings us here today. Except the person we're really talking about this week, I don't hate.
Oh, exciting.
Actually, kind of love.
I love when that happens.
Me too. And I love the whole arc of this person. And I think you guys will too. I really hope you will. It's a little, every week we say it's a little different. Do you notice that?
I know.
We're like, this is a little different than what we do.
Don't have an actual type. We just...
Maybe the difference is that it's always
different.
Hey. Does that work?
Maybe
Okay.
that's our niche.
Yeah. So Rebekah, let's do things a little bit different. Wow, that was actually the first line I had written. Let's start off this week with a clip just to get us in the mood for this person.
Love it.
I seen a blind guy bite a police horse. A puppy committed suicide after he saw our bathroom. I once bit into a burrito and there was a child shooing it. I seen a hooker eat a tire. A pack of wild dogs took over and successfully ran a Wendy's. The sewer people stole my skateboard. The project I lived in was named after Zachary Taylor, generally considered to be one of the worst presidents of all time. I once saw a baby give another baby a tattoo. They were very drunk.
You were very drunk. Oh my God. I haven't seen that in too long. That felt so good.
Didn't it? Everything from, it's just so specific to the rats, I guess, taking over a Wendy's and successfully running it. Just, it's like poetry to me.
Yeah.
Maybe not someone else, but like that would be the poetry I would get into.
Oh my gosh, it's brilliant.
Yes. So to me, Rebekah, that's Tracy Morgan. Tracy is so earnest. He's wild. He's so sincere. And I often don't know where he ends and his characters begin, which is like part of why I love him.
Yeah.
And Tracy's comedy is really like a roller coaster. You're just going down, but you're not feeling sick or nauseous or any of those things that now happen to me in my mature age. It's just enjoyable. It's somehow still fun. He's like the friend you can't take anywhere, but you can't get enough of.
Yeah. And you're just like along for the ride.
Absolutely. I actually kind of consider my son like that. We went to the dentist this morning. First thing he tells the guy is, dentist makes $7 million a year. And the dentist, he was so funny. He was like, close, 6.9 million. And
we love a dentist with a sense of humor.
He's so great. He's a pediatric dentist, so he's just awesome. But anyway, that's like my son. I'm like, what's the next thing he's going to say?
Right.
Very Tracy Morgan-ish, right? On SNL, he threw down with some of the most absurd characters you could even imagine. And then on 30 Rock, he became the Tracy Jordan, an alter ego that's like 80% Tracy Morgan and 20%. I honestly don't know. I don't know what you would call the other 20%.
Yeah, where does one more Tracy begin and the other end? It's hard to say.
But really, with Tracy Morgan, it's not all laughs. He's taken some hits from real-life controversies to literal life and death situation. Yet here he is, still doing what he does best, making us laugh and occasionally question his sanity. And today we're going to dive right into it. So buckle up. It's Tracy Morgan time.
Yay!
So let's rewind the clock way back to the early 90s when Tracy Morgan burst out onto the scene long before he was a household name. So he's a young comic in New York. Surprise, right? Not at all.
Not at all.
At all. Yeah, okay. If it was Florida, would you be like, wow, I had no idea?
Weirdly, the wackiness would almost like have
Okay.
I'm just saying the context, it's like it could only be New York or Florida.
That is actually very, very true. So he's a young comic in New York. He is ready to take the stage for Def Comedy Jam, ready to lay it all out there. He isn't really trying to dress up his act or make it play to the mainstream, which is part of why people, I think, really love him. He owns the stage. He has profanity-laced sets. He's cracking jokes that lots of people shied away from. None of this is going to be very politically correct. I'm going to try my very best, but some of the stuff is just stuff he said, and
sure,
I will do my best. So anyway, but his comedy isn't really about punching down. It's really this raw, real, unapologetically Tracy, born from a life he knew inside and out. So growing up, Tracy is the second of 5 children, and he lives in Brooklyn's, you'll have to help me with this, you might know it, Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant. Okay.
Bedford-Stuyvesant, but you can just call it Bed-Stuy.
Okay.
That's
Brooklyn's
how
Bed-Stuy, duh.
There you go.
And he later lived in the Highbridge section of the Bronx. Also familiar? Okay.
Nope. Just the Bronx. I don't know Highbridge.
Another thing my son said today, he said something about the Bronx, but he didn't say the to the doctor. And he was like, oh, Bronx. And he's like, frogs? And he's like, no, Bronx. I'm like, I think you have to say the in front of it.
It's true. It is the one borough that kind of requires the.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. But his upbringing was pretty tough, really, to put it lightly. His older brother, Jimmy Jr., had cerebral palsy, and their dad, Jimmy Sr., was actually a Vietnam vet. He had struggles with addiction throughout his life, and eventually he abandoned their family. And in 1987, his dad passed away from AIDS. Fast forward to Tracy's early 20s, and things aren't really much brighter at this point. He's married with 3 young sons, and he's scraping by on welfare. But in true Tracy Morgan fashion, doesn't stop him from finding the funny in life's chaos. He would joke around at different spots he was at, roasting friends and customers, and local DJs started noticing he's actually really funny. And so Tracy ends up taking a leap that really changes everything. He performs at the Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem, and he talked about not necessarily having sets so much as talking from real life experience and just being a funny person. I saw a quote where later Alec Baldwin said about him, some people, he's like, I can read funny lines and be funny. Tracy's just funny. Whatever you give him, he's just hilarious.
Yes.
So it was in these workshops that Tracy learns how to turn this rough around the edges reality into gold. And so Tracy continues to climb up the comedy ladder. And of course, someone at SNL eventually has their eyes on him. But before that, he found a role on Martin, which was really one of the biggest shows in the 90s. And he continued from there onto SNL, as I said, where he would end up as one of the main players on SNL from the years 1996 to 2003. So 7 years. Yeah. He worked alongside some of my personal favorites, Will Ferrell, Daryl Hammond, Sherry O'Terry, Molly freaking Shannon, Norm Macdonald, and Tim Meadows.
What a golden age of SNL. My gosh.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite SNL era? Is there one that really sticks out to you?
I mean, certainly around that time, and even a little after, and when Jimmy Fallon enters the scene, I would think that'd be a little later or maybe overlapping. Yeah. But Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry, I mean,
the cheerleaders.
Yeah, it's just too fun. Molly Shannon.
I'm 50 years old. Oh, wait, you're probably thinking Mary Catherine Gallagher.
Yeah, Mary Catherine Gallagher. And yeah, I mean, that one really does kind of stand out as my favorite era.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I worked at a doctor's office sometime after college. No, not college. I did not finish college.
Well, it would have been after, though, whether you finished or not.
Actually,
came after you went there.
Oh, gosh. I was no longer attending college or any school, but I worked at a doctor's office, and in the break room, they had the TV on. So I would always try to get there first because from 12 to 1, they played SNL on Comedy Central. So I would try to get in there first so I could always watch it. And it was a lot of times this cast, really, who I really loved. So later on, as you mentioned, Jimmy Fallon, Horatio Sanz, and Chris Kattan would join him for one of my favorite SNL songs. Do you know which one this would be?
I'll probably recognize it when you play it.
You will. Okay. It was, well, actually, I wasn't playing it. I wish it was Christmas Today. Do you know that one? Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay, you have to
keep going.
No.
Christmas is full of cheer. I don't care if you think it's a lie. Christmas will soon be here. I don't care about the CIA. I don't care what the calendar say. I wish it was Christmas today. I wish it was Christmas today.
Is it possible that missed me? I feel like I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
That was a delight.
It's so much fun, and it's so stupid, and it really...
Oh, stupid. But Tracy's deadpan looking into the distance and doing the jogging motion is...
That's it. That's all he does.
I can't not look at him. And also Jimmy's classic, like, breaking the fourth wall and smiling during it. Ooh, so good.
It's so good. And I just want to know how that ever came to be, actually,
right.
Because
like,
it's not good. Like, and it's very little... grand scheme of things.
Flimsy concept. Yeah.
Yeah. But really, that song has no business being as funny as I found it and clearly as you found it.
Delightful.
Tracy's job in this entire song, you don't hear from him. He's just dancing, not playing an instrument, just
like motioning more than
motioning the whole time, nothing else. So Tracy's known for several characters and impressions, like when he played Star Jones or Maya Angelou. I totally forgot about that, right?
Me too.
So good. As well as Astronaut Jones, which this song, I did not remember it being so catchy. And I remembered my friend RJ and I used to sing it all the time. Just like, it's so dumb.
Rocket. I'm taking a rocket. I'm packing my suitcase. Hey, look out, moon. Yeah, a rocket.
But also... I have another clip for you. This is, the last one was a bonus. This was a for real. I meant to put this in here. This is Tracy playing Brian Fellows of Brian Fellows Safari Planet.
Okay.
So if I had to explain Brian Fellow, if you've never heard of him, I'd say you take the enthusiasm of Steve Irwin, but the animal knowledge of a 5-year-old, put them together, and here's Brian.
Amazing.
Please welcome my first guest, a beaver. And who are you?
Well, I'm Patrick McGrath, and I work with North American mammals at the Bronx Zoo.
I'm Brian Fellows. So what's up with that beaver? He seems snotty.
Oh, well, no, Javier here is far from snotty. He's a hardworking little rodent. An adult beaver like Javier can chew through 400 pounds of timber in a single day.
So what does he do with all the wood he steals?
Well, beavers make lodges. The world's largest beaver lodge in Alberta, Canada, is 850 yards long and can be seen from space.
That's crazy.
I know, right? And beavers are definitely the builders of the animal world.
I'm Brian Fellows.
What in the world?
It's so good. I don't know. There is just something like, it's so random, and just he yells his name the whole time and doesn't know a thing about animals. It almost seems irritated that they're even a part of the entire conversation.
And like very disconnected from the guests. Like there's
absolutely.
No, like it's not, that's so good. Also a young Pete Davidson. Whoa.
I know. So that was not during the time that Tracy was on. It's when he comes back later to host. But so good eye on that one, because it does feel a little disconnected, be like, how did those two we're in the same universe? And while we've all heard of these stories of SNL's grueling schedule and how it's not unheard of or even assumed that you'd be using some sort of substance during your run just to get through the week, for Tracy, his drug of choice was alcohol, and this would, of course, cause many problems. So in 2003, after leaving SNL, Lorne Michaels of SNL, I mean, if I have to explain Lorne Michaels, you're going to be so confused in this entire episode. Lorne Michaels is like
a fixture,
SNL, right? So he helped Tracy start a new show. It was called The Tracy Morgan Show. It was basically like a offbeat comedy about his life. Doesn't do very well. It only films for about 4 months. And this show had him moving from New York to Los Angeles, which was really difficult for his family. At this time, he's married and he has 3 kids. And so this, like, moving away from everything, his SNL days are over. It's all, it's a lot for the family. So during this time, he begins drinking more. He's more and more the life of the party, and he finds himself getting into more and more trouble, including being banned from numerous nightclubs around West Hollywood. Yeah, I did see him say something along the lines of, when Biggie comes on, my shirt comes off. Which
he loves to lift up his shirt.
Loves to take his shirt off.
Loves to show his belly.
I love it so much.
Me too.
And really, that could have been it for Tracy in Hollywood. He has this, a lot of those SNL stars, right? They get like a spinoff. It doesn't go anywhere. And then you might not hear from them anymore. But just 2 years later, Tina Fey and Lorne Michaels are creating a show you may have heard of, a little show called 30 Rock.
Yep.
Which is in part some of the inspiration for our company name, Sandwich Media, because of Liz Lemon's love of sandwiches.
There you go.
30 Rock was basically behind the scenes SNL, right? Like that's of how
my understanding of the concept. Yeah.
Right. I'm just remembering there was another show on that came on at the same time that it was a dramatic take of that, like Sunset. Oh my gosh. But that doesn't make sense for what this show was.
Was it Studio something?
It could be. Yeah. That
wasn't it like Studio 6 or 7 or something?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah. There was like a kind of more,
like a more serious behind the scenes, and everyone thought that one was going to do so good. And
wait, was Matthew Perry in it?
I think so.
Yes, gosh, that's like really,
I feel like somebody from West Wing. I know. I don't even think I watched it. And so on this show that Tina Fey and Lorne are creating, it's the behind the scenes basically of SNL, but it's called on the show The Girly Show, TGS.
TGS, yeah.
And they wanted this character that's like a bigger than life comic on this weekly show that would happen on SNL, right? Like somebody like Pete Davidson, like you mentioned, becomes such a big star. They're like bigger than their time on SNL. He's not my first choice, only just because you just mentioned him.
Yeah, sure.
They wanted Tracy Morgan to play this role, and Tracy Morgan got his job on 30 Rock as Tracy Jordan, which is basically just a slightly more bigger than life
chaotic
version of him. Yeah, I mean, slightly more.
And I still have to pause before I say his name and think about, am I talking about the real life person or the show? And is it Morgan or Jordan? Which is which? And that's like the genius of the whole character too.
It absolutely is. And it's hard to write it in this episode.
I bet. Oh my gosh.
As you can imagine. One of my favorite things about 30 Rock, Rebekah, tell me if this was yours. So much of real life was mirrored on 30 Rock during that time, but like magnified. So something would be going on in pop culture or in politics, and the next season you knew you were going to see something about it, but told in the 30 Rock way. So after Tracy gets DUIs, like Tracy Morgan, the person, gets DUIs in 2005 and 2006, it's really no surprise that when Tracy Morgan is, it's going to be hard. When Tracy Morgan is fitted for an ankle monitor in May of 2007, Tracy Jordan ends up in one as well on the show, in one of my very favorite 30 Rock episodes, which is Ludachristmas.
Oh,
so good. Like that, to me,
definitely
that's
top 3. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I need to actually tonight.
It's like a comfort one, right?
Yes.
It's just so good. So it's perfect. And while it's all fun and games for a character like Tracy Jordan, friends of the real person, Tracy Morgan, were worried about him and the issues he seemed to be having with alcohol. Alec Baldwin, who I mentioned before, worked on 30 Rock with Tracy, relayed his concerns to Tracy, and eventually he does become sober. And that's where Alec was saying, like, he talked to him because he had a brother that went through some sobriety issues, and just like, it's going to end very badly for you if you can't get a hold of this. And something helped. And I'm sure along with other things, he was able to become sober. Although even with the sobriety, his marriage ultimately doesn't work out and the couple split. And he admits to being really unstable in the time and saying he understands why his wife had to go. And again, much like our imitating life of Tracy Jordan's ankle monitor, when Tracy Morgan is diagnosed with diabetes, it doesn't take long for it to be a bit on 30 Rock with Tracy Jordan finding out he may have had diabetes. Do you remember what he did during this?
Oh.
He just assumed, well, oh gosh, remember the doctor on that show too?
Spaceman?
Thank you. Dr. Spaceman basically told him, if you have diabetes, you're going to lose your foot. So he, instead of changing anything in his diet, doing anything different, he decided he should practice. So he put like a roller skate on his foot and had .com and Grizz like move him around. But like that was his solution. He was just like, okay. He wanted to register as a motor vehicle. It was just amazing. I loved it. I'm going to rewatch 30 Rock after this. Like, this is all from memory, and I just love it.
You mentioned in passing, just for anyone who hasn't seen it, and like, please just like, as soon as you're done listening, just start at the beginning. You will not be sorry.
Much like Parks and Rec, to me, the first season is good, but everybody's characters obviously get developed as it goes along. But if you are like in season 1, you're like, you can hop into
it for
season
context,
2.
though. True. But like, I say it's worth the long haul.
I agree. It's one of my favorites. Another bit on 30 Rock was that in 2012, there was an episode titled Idiots Are People 3, which is very perfect. This whole episode comes after Tracy Morgan, the person, is in Nashville in 2011. He is doing stand-up and he makes a homophobic joke. So the real person does that, apologizes, and really does seem to put in work to make amends in this situation. Tina Fey puts out a statement after his apology. I hope for his sake that Tracy's apology will be accepted as sincere by his gay and lesbian coworkers at 30 Rock, without whom Tracy would not have lines to say, clothes to wear, sets to stand on, scene partners to act with, or a printed out paycheck from accounting to put in his pocket. Which is like a very, I mean, they're actively working together, but like this was not cool.
Yeah, no, that's actually a brilliant response.
Isn't it? And you know I love freaking Tina Fey.
She can do nothing wrong.
So that's Tracy Morgan, real life. As Tracy Jordan, the next season on the show, he apologizes. Similar situation. He says something outlandish that I didn't write down, but I think it was in that same vein. And Liz Lemon, or Tina Fey, basically calls him an idiot in the episode. But unlike Tracy Morgan, Tracy Jordan takes it too far. And so here's a clip of what happens when Tracy Jordan decides that he needs to gather all the idiots around to take a stand against NBC. See if you notice a reality star in this clip.
Oh, okay.
We are Legion. We are America. Frat guys, DJs, loudmouth old investment bankers, the tramp stamped, parrot heads, anti-vaccination crusaders, and people who won't shut up about scuba diving.
It's a whole nother world down there.
And our celebrity spokesperson, actress Denise Richards.
That's right. I'm an idiot. Surprised?
The National Association for Zero Intolerance, or Nazi, we should change that.
It's fine.
We are outraged that the American bigot Liz Lemon has made no effort to reach out to us.
Tracy, are you kidding me? I have been calling your cell all day.
My ringtone is a chicken dance. If I answer it, I won't hear the whole song.
Hi, this is Tracy's cell phone. .com, hold the steering wheel. I gotta leave my outgoing message. What I just hit, was that a person? Is that pain or blood? .com, this did not happen. We take this to our grave.
I want to watch it a million times.
I know. Just so many jokes within, there's just jokes upon jokes. It's amazing.
It's like not a joke a minute. It's a joke every 3 seconds. It's so fast and quick. It's like you've got to like go back and rewatch moments.
And while things like ankle monitors and diabetes and making offensive comments were 3 of the struggles that both Tracy Morgan and Tracy Jordan had to overcome, Tracy Jordan never had to deal with anything about Sprinter vans. But unfortunately, Tracy Morgan did. And let's find out what happened after a quick break to hear word from this week's sponsors.
I'm coming out of my candy coma, and I am so glad that I have a few Factor meals sitting in my fridge ready for me to course correct with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are never frozen and, most importantly to me, are delicious. Factor lets you do you. Choose your menu preference. You can manage calories, your protein intake, avoid meat, or simply aspire to eat more well-balanced. Get on your A game or maintain your A game with quality ingredients you can taste. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up off your daily things to do. Head to factormeals.com/criminality50 and use code criminality50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code criminality50 at factormeals.com/criminality to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Darker days are upon us. Literally, it's darker earlier, but there is no reason to feel scared or nervous in your own home. If you have ever worried about the safety of your home, there is no better time to act. We at Criminality are so excited to share that the home security we both use and trust, Simply Safe, is offering their best deal of the year. Our listeners can get 60% off today just by visiting simplysafe.com/criminality. Forget what you think about how old school security systems work, the ones that take action once someone's already in your home. Spoiler alert, that is too late. Simply Safe stops intruders before they break into your home. Plus, there are no long-term contracts, no cancellation fees, and it's around $1 a month for 24/7 protection and peace of mind. Simply Safe is offering our listeners early access to the Black Friday sale. This week only, get 60% off any new system with a select professional monitoring plan. Again, this is the best deal of the year. Head to simplysafe.com/criminality. That's simplysafe.com/criminality. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
So 30 Rock ends after an amazing run from 2006 to 2013, and my heart breaks into a million little pieces. And if you're like, hey, is the only reality you guys are actually covering in this episode the fact that there was a reality show on 30 Rock? Queen of Jordan.
Oh, gosh, with his wife.
With Sherry Shepherd. And also there was a bunch of like background episodes that would be playing like
MILF Island.
MILF Island.
Yes,
which
yes.
became a show, basically.
They like willed that into existence.
I loved it so much. So if you're thinking that's all they had, or that's all we were going to bring up, first of all, ham. Second of all, no, Tracy was actually involved in a actual reality show. So there. Yeah. And by reality, I mean that according to IMDb, Scare Tactics was a reality show featuring sci-fi inspired pranks on unsuspecting people who witness alien abductions, hauntings, and other paranormal events.
Well, no wonder I never saw it.
So is it reality? I don't know, but I found the word in there, so I said we're doing this.
No, it totally counts.
So you never watched Scare Tactics?
Nope.
Very smart. Very smart.
Nope.
During Tracy's time on 30 Rock, he actually hosted Scare Tactics. He took over for one of the Baldwin brothers. Don't know which one. It wasn't Alec, though. And I don't really know how to explain this, except think about someone that you're a friend with. Actually, think about somebody you're a frenemy with. I'm glad I'm not using this for an example because you're my real friend. If you had a frenemy and you wanted to embarrass them and maybe scare them until they mess themselves.
Okay.
You could apply to have them on Scare Tactics. What Scare Tactics is this show that like really created these terrifying situations for people. And at the end, they would be like, you're on Scare Tactics. Don't worry. Aliens aren't going to eat you. Don't worry. That guy's not actually going to murder you. It's
oh
like
my gosh.
It's like Punk'd, but for regular people and also like more like paranormal stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay. Scary.
It is scary. I mean, a lot of it was very cheesy, but I think it must have been just like people in Hollywood that were like looking to be extras on something. But I don't even know how you could get a friend on there because I would be livid if my friend brings me on here and then everyone's laughing at the end and I thought aliens had kidnapped me and were going to eat me for breakfast. Like that's not going to be
so
very
cruel.
Good for our friendship.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So Tracy's job on the show was to be the host. He's hosting it from the studio. He's really not involved in any of the pranks. But really his charm and the reason I think the show had any success was because of Tracy's humor. It's great. So I'm 99% sure that anytime they actually cut to Tracy to either set up a scene or comment on something happening, that it was just him talking. I don't think there was anything scripted. I don't even know if they paid him for this job. He might have just come on set. But here's a clip of some of his best outros from the show.
Oh, fun.
Calm down, Rebekah. Just because someone's trying to drink all your blood doesn't make them a bad person. Hey, Sana, you really want to do it again? Look behind you. Just kidding. Hey, Brad, I spoke to the werewolf, and he said he's hugged weirder things, too. See, parents, if you want to show your kids you love them, put them on scare tactics. Why are you running, Dylan? You could have made some serious cheese off that kidney. Caution, aliens in the rearview mirror are closer than they appear. What's wrong, Brittany? Do you always run when someone tries to amputate your limbs against your will? Charlie, I figured out why you're so angry. You're seeing red. Dang, Boris. You were really gonna pop that guy? Your pranks are hardcore. Guess what? That book is actually this month's pick for Oprah's book club. At least that's what Dr. Laura told me. Hey, Connie, you know what's not news? I think you peed your pants. That kid Alex is 19 and still plays with a doll? Unless you can inflate it, that's just plain sick. That mummy is always joking around at my family reunions. But his potato salad? That's no joke.
Oh my God. They just were like, put him on a set and they were like, go. Here's the people's names, riff. I felt called out too. It started with Rebekah and drinking blood.
I did have to start it there because I thought that would be fun.
Love it. Dang, Boris.
He's so wild, but I think you're exactly right. They gave him his name and their names and we're like, whatever you want to say.
Pop off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. But after Scare Tactics and after 30 Rock, it's June 2014. Tracy is really doing what he does best. He's making people laugh. He was actually on tour at the time. It was called the Turn It Funny Comedy Tour. He was at a comedy club at this point in Delaware at a casino with a few other comedians, James McNair, as well as his assistant, Jeff Malia, and comedians Artie Fuqua and Harris Stanton. And actually, the night that we're talking about at this point in the story, in June of 2014, Artie Fuqua takes a picture of the Sprinter van. I believe it was a Sprinter van. You can't see it anymore. And the audience from that night. So like after the show, they're getting ready to go. And he posts this online. He posts, "This is what it looks like from the stage to see a standing ovation from 1,500 people. Then we travel back to New York City in style in a luxury Mercedes Sprinter. Road life is a good life."
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Okay is the right word. Let's keep going. Shortly after this tweet, though, a horrific accident takes place when a tractor trailer collides with the Sprinter van, killing James McNair and severely injuring Tracy Morgan and others. Tracy has a severely broken leg. He has broken ribs. He has a traumatic brain injury, and he's actually in a coma. Yeah, right? He was in ICU, and nobody really knew if he was going to be able to pull through. So do you remember around the time that this happened?
Yeah. Oh, I remember this well, except I don't know that I ever got all the details of the story. In fact, for some reason, I thought he was the driver, which obviously is not the case.
No, it's not the case. But I can see, like, after a while, so many stories in your head, you're going to make up your own details after at some point.
Choose your own adventure.
Exactly. So the early investigation states that a tractor trailer crashes into this 2012 Mercedes Sprinter van while the semi and the van are going north on the New Jersey Turnpike, which you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah. Can picture it.
So the Sprinter van is actually the only vehicle that flips. And while the crash ultimately involves others, it's a van, 2 tractor trailers, an SUV, and 2 other vehicles. There's one fatality, as I mentioned, and that is Tracy Morgan's friend. And when we're talking about this tractor trailer, it's not just any semi-tractor trailer. It is actually a Walmart tractor trailer. And this is obviously a big deal. It's not a great look for a Walmart to be involved in a huge accident with like one of America's favorite comedians and stuff. Yeah.
I don't remember it being Walmart. This is so interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So after this accident, the Walmart president and CEO at the time, Bill Simon, says in a written statement, "We're praying for the family and friends of the passenger who lost his life in the terrible accident in New Jersey. Our hearts go out to everyone involved, and we hope those who are injured get the care they need and make a full recovery. This is a tragedy, and we're profoundly sorry that one of our trucks was involved." So, okay. And so, as I was saying, Walmart truck is what crashes into Tracy's van, and this whole accident happens. And the details that happened really kind of took a bit like to figure out exactly what happened. I wrote in here, my memory of it was like a drunk driver that hit them.
I thought someone was drunk. Yes.
No one was drunk. Later, they find out that the driver of the semi, the Walmart semi, is going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. There was construction at the time, and he was dozing off.
Oh, gosh.
That's when he crashes into the Sprinter van.
That's terrible.
So before we get into those details, though, I'd like to show you an animated version of the crash. Rebekah, it's audio as well, so listeners can hear it, and then you can kind of share what you've seen. Obviously, animated, so it's not graphic.
This view shows the truck approaching the slowed traffic, striking the limo van and other vehicles.
Oh my gosh. So scary.
It really is. And that I'm always terrified when there's any kind of construction on like the interstate where nobody is supposed to be stopping and you are stopped. It's the worst and it's terrifying. But that's kind of what they recreated the accident to have looked like. Tracy, the driver of Tracy's van, said after this accident, I climbed around and heard Tracy screaming for help. I climbed up the body of the limo bus. They call it a limo bus, but I call it a Sprinter van because of, the everything.
Where we live, yeah.
Yeah, this is Housewives related. But Tyrone, the driver, said that he couldn't reach them. He said, I just remember the impact. We didn't know which way was up, which way was down.
Oh, scary.
Right? He said, I don't know if we flipped several times or one time. I saw the condition of everyone and knew it would make things worse if I tried to pull them out of the vehicle. But Rebekah, they were trapped for 40 minutes.
What?
In this van. And here's why. Apparently, the way things were, they were flipped. The Sprinter van had some upgrades, and one of those had like a piece of plywood panel that had been installed like as a customization. And so when the emergency responders got there, they had to break through that. And I guess that took extra time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And of course, people around were like, well, thank goodness it wasn't on fire because 40 minutes, they would have all been gone.
Yeah.
So the wreck is horrific, and the driver of the Walmart semi, Kevin Roper, ends up being charged with vehicular homicide and assault. It was like assault with a vehicle or something. Wow. He pleads not guilty, and he's released on bail of $50,000. But here's the thing. Kevin says he did fall asleep. It was never something he denied. But here's where it gets interesting, because Kevin says this, like, yes, I'm driving the semi truck. I get tired. I guess I fall asleep. And Walmart's saying, well, hang on a minute. Federal regulation is truck drivers. Do you know how much you're allowed to drive, at least at this time, as a truck driver? Straight.
I wish I did. My dad drove trucks when I was little.
Oh, okay.
He will know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say you can't drive more than, and it's probably something too long.
It
like
is.
10 hours consecutive or something.
Very close. 11 hours.
Yeah.
And you can't drive more than 14 hours in a day.
Okay.
And on top of that, you can't drive more than 70 hours a week without extra breaks being in there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Kevin, though, he was within those 14 hours. He was actually at 13 and a half hours of that 14-hour limit when this wreck takes place. The worst. But what happened with him was a little bit different. They found out that he hadn't slept for 28 hours at the time of this wreck.
Kevin.
Yeah. Apparently, he lived in Georgia, but where the base was for the truck he drove was in Delaware. So he had to drive 12 hours in his vehicle, got in the truck, and then starts his 13 and a half hour drive.
Holy moly.
Yeah. I guess that's where kind of the issue comes into play. Like, why was he allowed? They knew he drove up, or somebody should have. If they didn't, they should have known.
Yeah.
And not let him get behind the wheel. And so, of course, the accident investigators look at it and say, yeah, driving that much and not sleeping is a factor in this crash. And Tracy's attorneys are saying, hey, Walmart, this is on you. He's your employee. He was driving 65 and a 45.
Yeah.
Because of this construction, he's fallen asleep. He would have had time to brake if he wasn't going 65. So it's a lot. And it's definitely like on them, right?
How do you accelerate and go over the speed limit when you're sleeping? Do you think his foot relaxed and it was on the gas?
Quick little Google we did on the side here. I guess semi-trucks a lot of them do have cruise control. So that's kind of what I was thinking. If the speed limit was 65, and he goes down to 45. He doesn't realize.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. One part of the statement that Walmart later said, so after that initial one saying, we feel bad, we're sorry for the family, they were going to investigate, they end up saying, if we find out that something is our fault, we'll take care of it. And so they go back on this. Tracy Morgan ends up saying, Walmart is actually blaming me for the accident.
What?
Basically, the statement comes in right after Walmart files in court that Tracy Morgan and others in the limo were, quote, in whole or in part responsible for the outcome of the crash because they weren't wearing seatbelts in the back.
Okay. They should have been wearing seatbelts. However,
Sure.
if the accident wasn't caused by the semi-truck, they wouldn't have been injured. So,
Right.
No.
But the fact that Walmart has now said, we'll take care of it. If it's on us, it's on us, to this.
And I hate how I was like, oh, that was such a great statement.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's sad? It's like surprising to hear a large company like do the right thing preemptively. And now I'm like, of course they are going back on it.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. So Tracy Morgan, obviously, when this comes out with Walmart, is like, are you kidding me?
Seriously.
And he said, quote, my friends and I were doing nothing wrong. I want to thank my fans for sticking with me during this difficult time, after what he heard Walmart say in court. And part of what was actually said during this, I guess, this hearing in regards to the injuries and the death of James McNair, they said it was, quote, the actual quote was failure to properly wear an appropriate available seatbelt restraint device. So that caused, they were in whole or in part responsible for the outcome, which isn't that such a legal thing to say, for the outcome, not for the wreck, but for the outcome of the wreck.
They're blaming them for their own, they're blaming him for his own death. It's really, really gross.
Gross, yeah. Tracy's attorney ends up saying this is surprising and appalling. It's disingenuous. It's not what they said they were going to do initially, which was take full responsibility. And he said, I'm upset for my clients and their families. But apparently, Walmart realized that's probably not the best way to do this and decides to change their mind pretty quickly. And although they claimed that they do have something called fatigue management training, which is like, if you're tired, pull over, they weren't required to have fatigue management program, like an actual program. It was like part of it, but I don't know. I was like, this is very legalese,
yeah,
corporate
it's like
talk.
Yeah, and they created it to kind of have it be there on paper, probably more than in practice.
Right. Look at you. So at this point, Tracy's finished rehab. Walmart is now saying, let's settle down here. We've got another plan. And Tracy talks about finishing rehab and it being so difficult. He's lost his friend. He has a 10-month-old daughter at this point named Maven. Mm-hmm. And one thing that was so sweet, though, is he was like, when I was in this coma, I knew I had to be there for her. I knew I had to get out of this coma. I had this baby girl, and it's all I wanted. Like, I wanted this baby girl so bad, which is another Tracy Jordan thing. Remember when he wants...
Yes, because they had boys, yes.
Yes. So in the end, Walmart decides maybe blaming the passengers in the vehicle wasn't really a good look, and they end up settling with Tracy and the other passengers just a few months after the crash. And allegedly, because it's never actually been officially said by Tracy, who, by the way, has only good things to say about Walmart now, it's believed that James McNair's kids received a settlement of $10 million and Tracy got $90 million. That's what's out there.
Oh my gosh.
I know. No idea if it's true and no idea why those amounts are so different, except Tracy never thought he'd be able to work again. He was in all this rehab, but again, we don't know if that number's true. And by the way, if you Google Tracy Morgan accident, Tracy Morgan, anything like that, you will be on so many attorney pages, like all these, have you been in an accident? Here's what happened to Tracy Morgan.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, it was very hard to actually find really good details for a while there. Who knows what the number is? But Tracy Morgan talks a lot now about how he lives in really nice neighborhoods. He's never going to need for money. He's glad it was a Walmart truck and not a Walgreens truck because Walmart has more, that sort of a thing.
Amazing.
But back in June of 2015, I very much remember this. Tracy goes to the Today Show, and this is after the case has been settled, and he talks to Matt Lauer, of all people. But this little clip just absolutely broke my heart. I promise we'll end on a happy note, but here's this clip of Tracy talking about what happened.
Okay.
You know what an honor it is for me to be the guy to walk you back into Studio 8H?
Means a lot. Means a lot to me, too. When you walk in this room, what do you think of?
Home.
Give me a sense of what the last year's been like for you emotionally, Tracy.
Oh, it's been up and down. I have my family. You know, I have my wife, Megan. We're about to be married. And my daughter, my son. So they keep my spirits up. And Tina Fey and all the people calling me is just helping me get my spirits up. I mean, the case is settled, but the pain is always going to be there for Jimmy Mack. You know, he's a close friend of mine, a comrade in comedy. And he was a loving man. And he was a warm man.
It's okay, baby.
He was a good man. It just hurts me to see that he's gone.
As you've been recovering over this last year, have thoughts like that gone through your mind, the things you've done and the things you're lucky enough to have the chance to do again?
Yeah, it brings back the 40th anniversary. We were all together in my house, and I wouldn't look at it.
You couldn't watch that show?
Nah. Our publicists called to say, wow, Alec and Tina just, oh man, gave you a very big tribute. And I just put my head down and started crying. Because it's a lot for me. It was too much for me at the time.
Melissa.
I'm sorry. But we're not ending it there, I promise.
No, that legitimately brings me to tears.
Yeah.
Because you don't see him so vulnerable ever. Mm-hmm. And like him admitting he's not there yet. He's not healed and he's not ready to go back to comedy, but that he will. It's like, oh.
I know. It broke my heart. I remember watching it. And because you're so thankful that he's alive, but you think, oh my gosh, this, I can't imagine what that's like for him. But man, that one makes you tear up for sure. Yeah. One thing I found even more heartbreaking was to hear Tracy say later in this interview that really his last memory of his friend James was performing that night of the crash. Yeah. He actually, I didn't mention this before, he was in a coma for 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Isn't it? So he doesn't even know his friend has died. Who had his funeral. He isn't part of any of it. Yeah. He wanted to watch YouTube videos of the accident and his friend's funeral as his way of like paying respects because he just felt so terrible he wasn't even there.
That's too much. Ooh.
Okay. We'll keep going. Here we go.
Okay.
We're going to get through it. As far as Walmart goes, see, we're off of it. They've clearly kept moving on. And when it comes to Kevin Roper, he actually accepted a plea deal in 2016. He admitted again to being tired, but not stopping to rest. He pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter and aggravated assault charges. But as part of this plea deal, he's admitted into a pretrial intervention program. Have you heard of those before?
Mm-mm.
So this program lasts 3 years, and it requires him to complete 300 hours of community service, retain full-time employment, pay fines, and remain free of any other offenses. If he's able to do that, it's all removed from his record.
Wow. Do you know what? I like it.
Honestly, I do too, because I don't know. I felt bad for this guy. I felt bad for everyone in this story.
Yeah.
But it was just such a dumb thing to do. But also the company should have, there's just a lot. There were
no checks in place.
Yeah.
Look, nobody plans to fall asleep at the wheel. Like you do, that is a thing you kind of have to self-monitor,
right? Especially
if it's your profession and you spend so many hours on the road and the company needs to enforce it. But like, we've all had the feeling where you go like, how to get here, or you did, like your eyes are so heavy. Like, I can't imagine what he lived with. And honestly, 3 years, 300 hours, like that's a lot.
Yeah. But if he failed to complete the program, he would get 5 to 10 years in prison, along with 3 years of parole supervision and up to 30 years on the aggravated assault charges.
It seems reasonable to me, honestly.
I feel like so many lives were ruined. I don't know. I always want to default to what the family says or how the family feels on stuff like this. Tracy's forgiven him. He says,
amazing.
This was just a terrible thing that happened for everyone. The prosecution did say that this deal worked out for all parties because Kevin was a great employee. He was a great community person in his community. He admits to fault. He wasn't hiding anything.
Right.
Walmart did also stand behind Kevin, probably in helps. I would imagine for Walmart, if this guy doesn't get a huge 20 years in prison, something like that, then it helps them. I mean, really from a PR standpoint, because they don't have people like that on their roads and stuff. So I'm sure that had a little to do with it, that Walmart paid for attorneys, I'm sure, something like that. They did part ways. He's no longer working for Walmart, but that's that. So since the crash, Tracy's made a remarkable recovery. He married the mother of his daughter, Maven, and he's just so thankful to be alive. Some of his recent interviews are really hilarious because you can tell he cannot speak, obviously can't speak poorly of Walmart as part of the settlement. And I've heard like all different kinds of people try to like trick him in that. And I think that part of the Matt Lauer interview, the attorney's there with him, and I think it's his personal attorney to make sure he's not saying anything, because it is like, obviously Walmart's not going to pay you that much money and then be like, say what you want.
Right.
And so there's lots of checks and balances in place for that. But Tracy's also returned to comedy. He even hosted an episode of SNL. That was the Brian Fellows one we watched before.
So I think that's what I remember. He made a pretty big like debut back on SNL, right? Like it was like his first public appearance. I remember that really, really well.
Yeah. It was emotional. So exciting, especially after what we've seen, what we saw on the with the Matt Lauer interview.
Yeah.
He also starred in a show called The Last OG. It ran for several seasons. I watched part of the first one. I think it was like on one of those channels I just kind of forgot I had. And as I mentioned before, Tracy said he's forgiven Kevin Roper and wants to just make the most out of every day. And I can't leave you on a sad Tracy clip. So here's one of my favorites. This is literally just Tracy in an airport waiting for a flight. It's just Tracy being Tracy. And that's
Tracy Morgan, not Jordan.
Like. Tracy Morgan, just a regular old man.
My heart is so full.
Right? It's just him living his life, like living his best life, loving
in the moment,
some U2.
Yeah. Unawares of the people pretending to be unaware of him.
Everyone's just smiling. I just love how, he put his whole chest in that song.
He did.
I loved it. Yeah. So that's a story of Tracy Morgan and kind of scare tactics and Tracy Jordan.
That feels like a mystery solved for me because the details were so fuzzy. Like, I very much remember this. I remember just people saying, like, we don't know if he'll walk again, talk again, and let alone be a comedian again. It's like, oh my gosh, is he going to survive? And so just to know what all happened is so helpful. I loved hearing that, even though it was so tragic.
Sorry. Yeah, I really bummed it out at the end there.
It's okay. We ended with him singing U2. Like, it doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Rebekah, I am more than happy to turn this over to you because I would love to know what it is that you're watching.
It's maybe the one thing we haven't talked about in terms of what we've been watching, because we did have a week break we were traveling and we needed shows. So we did swap shows, but haven't told you this one, I don't think.
Okay.
And I couldn't get super coy with the clues, so I think you'll probably get it. But Hulu.
Okay.
High School, Texas.
I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Really? It might also be FX by way of Hulu. Does that
English
help?
Teacher.
Yes. Oh, you are so good. I knew if I gave you one more little thing, you would get it.
I freaking love that show. Oh my gosh.
Wait, did you ever say it on the show?
I told you about it. No, I didn't tell you about it here. I said, I can't not tell you this show because it's so good.
How recently was that?
I will check in our text messages now, but I feel like it was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
it was a while
so a
ago.
lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I started deciding that this was it and I was writing the clues, I'm like, she may have definitely said this on the show and I have no recollection.
I told you on September 19th.
Wow. Okay. So it really was like 2 months ago.
Fair.
Almost. Well, I finally got around to it and I'm really enjoying it so much.
It's a perfect show to me. It's so
kind of a perfect show,
right? It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so, if you want to read whatever you have on it.
I didn't even have the blurb, but that's a good idea to tell people in case they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But you can keep talking about it.
Okay. I am obsessed with that show. I think it's the second or third episode where the blonde mom is like, has the restaurant.
I'm only 2 in, so I don't think that's happened yet.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 in. But the scenes of the classroom, like the kids talking to him and stuff, It doesn't even feel written. Like, it's so perfect.
It flows. Yeah, the writing
well.
is so organic. It's like real teens. It actually sounds like real kids. Okay, so the blurb is, Evan Marquez is an English teacher in Austin, Texas, who often finds himself at the intersection of the personal, professional, and political aspects of working at a high school. And that doesn't sound that fun, but it is. What I like is how it's like flipping the script on some of these like hot button issues. Like, it's definitely tackling very current cultural topics, but it's kind of like subverting them in very fun, unexpected ways, so that I think people with different viewpoints can all relate, laugh, see a different point, but like enjoy it.
Yeah.
And gosh, if there's a time we need a show like that,
it
is now. I really, really am loving it. And I'm just about to start episode 3.
Oh, okay. Then this might actually be the one. Tell me when you're finished.
Because I don't
think
I've met a mom yet.
I've rewatched that one like 2 or 3 times. I love it so much. Like that episode.
Just the scene where the woman teacher, I don't know everybody's name yet.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Teaches the girls, they're going to play powder puff football.
Yes.
And she teaches them self-defense instead. She uses the gym teacher as her example, and she's like, around the neck, dead, family dead. Like, she just,
her whole family's dead.
So good.
It's a perfect show to me. I totally agree. So the real guy that does it, I can't remember his name right now, but on TikTok, I will send you this video. We'll have to just play it. He only dances. Have you seen it to that one song?
I've heard that people have.
That's how people found the show.
Yes. And they're like, this is the most genius unintentional marketing ploy ever.
It has nothing to do with the show. It's just him like randomly dancing to like this random clip from like a show from years ago. And it's so funny. He'll just come up on there, and I watch it every single time. I'm
going to seek it out. And I'm sorry, it sometimes takes me a long time and my own way to find a show. And then I
don't apologize.
Always should come back and just check and be like, do I need to be crediting you for this amazing show? Because 9 times out of 10, I should be. So thank you. Belated thank you. It's so good. I really recommend it.
Yeah, it's so fun. Definitely. I think everyone would love it. Oh, I'm so excited. Tell me when you get to the one with the mom and like. Oh, and the other thing, have you gotten to invisible Tourette's? What is it? Oh my gosh. It's like the things the kids come up with in the class that like he just, I love it. Not invisible Tourette's. I can't remember. Oh, asymptomatic Tourette's. You'll learn about it. It's the clip that got me on it. Yeah, I love it.
That's amazing. Well, the scene opens like to give people an idea of the 2 teachers in line in the cafeteria getting their like food on the food chain. She's like, have you noticed that the kids are less woke this year? And he's like, yeah, it's like the pendulum has shifted. And she's like, it's like they're against the things that they're for, or like they're for all the things they're against. But it's like, it's kind of just this really great example of how like the youth, I mean, I'm so old, I just said the youth.
I know.
It's like it slips through our fingers so quickly because things change so quickly for the like Alpha Gen and like Gen Z or whatever. And it just, this show just like encapsulates it. It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, so absolutely. Good. 10 out of 10 recommendation on that one.
Great. Perfect.
So
we're in agreement.
Yes.
Tell me yours.
Absolutely. Mine sucks. You won't get this because there's no reason I should have watched this. It doesn't even, wait till you hear. Remember, I was like, I'm watching something that's crazy. Don't worry. Netflix. Outer space.
Oh boy.
New York.
Is it anything about Mars and like Elon Musk?
No. It is not. It is the Manhattan alien abduction.
What are you talking about, Melissa?
I'm sorry. Is nobody else watching this? Rude. Let me see if I can find. I thought I pulled it up.
Manhattan alien abduction based on a true story.
It's a documentary, Rebekah.
Oh,
it's a documentary. Gosh. It's a documentary that tells the story of Linda Napolitano. You know, I'm not going to be able to say that. A New York housewife who said aliens abducted her from her 12th floor apartment in Manhattan in 1989. So this lady says by the way, on Netflix, every time it says, like, you know, the warnings, every time it's smoking and cursing. And that's the warnings on everyone. There's so much smoking. They're like, we got to keep this on there. People need to know. So it's this housewife woman who claims to have been abducted by aliens. This UFO researcher named Bud Hopkins, he has this book in 1997. About this, she seems to be like the most credible. She's very likable, not to me, but to him, person that's able to give these detailed stories. He's married to another woman, and this woman's like, she's lying to you. And like that's her whole thing is she's just like, this lady's lying. And she's like trying to convince her husband that the woman he's working with, who keeps saying she's being abducted by aliens, like several times, by the way, is lying to him. So it'll be like, he'll say something like, I've heard in these other abductions that people end up with nosebleeds or something after because they say something's implanted in their nose. I don't know what was wrong with me and why I watched all 3 episodes. And then the next time she would talk to him, she would call him and be like, Bud, please, you got to get over here. Everyone's nose is bleeding in my house.
Oh my gosh.
That kind of things. But then people were saying that they saw aliens come down to her. It was just, it's crazy. But I loved his wife in the sense that she was just like, this is stupid. She's an idiot and she's lying to you and she's making you look crazy.
I can't believe this was 1989.
It's wild. Apparently it's very, and she claims like CIA agents, Richard and Dan, they're like out to get her and they kidnapped her one time. She claims her son was abducted too. And he was on there and he was kind of like, I might have been, I think, maybe, sort of. Wouldn't let them use his face. Anyway, I enjoyed it. It was so ridiculous that it was kind of fun.
I'd love to hear more about the day and what was happening that led you there, but I think it's
better to not know.
Maybe offline.
I don't think anyone should ever know what was going on in my life that day. It was probably just a regular day. Probably ended in Y. I don't know. I watched it though. Don't watch it, but I did watch it.
I didn't see that coming.
I thought you'd be proud of me. I mean, not really, but I mean, if you're going to watch one of our episodes, watch English Teacher. Please watch English Teacher. I need you to come back.
It's great. Oh, wait, is it just the first season? This just came out,
I think it's like 8 episodes, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to tear through it by tomorrow. Okay. Well, then I'll tell you about the next episode of Criminality.
Can't wait.
Okay. I've only done enough research to know what I'm doing and not enough to have great clues. So these, I think people are going to guess. But you know what? Sometimes that's fun.
I know.
And I think you're going to guess. Handbags. New York. Scientology.
Okay. I have some ideas. All right.
So do I.
Oh.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks with an all-new episode.
In the meantime, check out Rebekah's other show, Thank You for Your Interest podcast, that is doing really well and is super fun and super wonderful, and you should definitely check it out.
Thanks, Melissa. That's really nice. And as always, Melissa's available every Tuesday on Moms and Mysteries. So, man, if you're missing her voice, and I know you are, when we're not here, go check out her other show. And otherwise, follow us at Criminality Show on Instagram and check out our website, criminalityshow.com.
Please.
Bye.
Bye.